Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Marshall.
And we'd like to welcome you to the new Blockbuster Insider, where we'll be giving you a rundown of all the greatest Blockbuster games and movies coming out in May.
Well, the first thing I saw at the cinema this year was Daybreakers, and that's this really wicked vampire movie from the Spierig brothers. It's their first big studio film, and it's basically set 10 years in the future, and it's a world where a plague has turned everyone but 5% of the Earth into vampires.
Okay, so it's not your usual teeny make vampires nice and
No,
friendly and
there's
fluffy.
nothing wussy, there's no kind of falling in love with vampires, or it's proper kind of hardcore vampire lore.
Good.
And because there are very few humans left, everybody's starving, there's not enough blood to go around.
As you
As
can
it would.
expect.
And so basically, the vampires have started feeding on themselves, they're so desperate.
Who are you? We're the folks with the crossbows.
Hurt me.
Can anyone hear me?
Wanna feel how it feels.
They found us. They're everywhere.
You wanna know that it doesn't hurt me. Wayside. Be running up that road. Be running up that
It's exciting, it's interesting, and it's also very creepy. There's this fantastic scene when one of these mutated vampires goes to Ethan Hawke's house, and it's really freaky. I kind of was quite scared by that.
Okay, well there you have it, Daybreakers, and that is also, I believe, a Blockbuster exclusive.
It is. You can only get it at Blockbuster. Well, my next favourite film would definitely be Up in the Air, directed by Jason Reitman.
Yeah,
who
George
directed, Jason Reitman made Thank You for Smoking and Juno, which everybody went to see.
Yep.
And it basically stars George Clooney as this executive type who spends his days flying around America, going to companies where they have to lay off a load of people and firing people for bosses who basically don't have the guts to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the backdrop. Basically, he's a guy with no attachments, no physical attachments. He doesn't have his own place, not really. He doesn't have any emotional attachments. He loves traveling. He loves airports. He lives a very detached existence, but he's actually incredibly happy doing that.
Show her the magic. Take her through the paces.
Follow me. Never get behind old people. Their bodies are littered with hidden metal, and they never seem to appreciate how little time they have left. Bingo. Asians. They pack light, travel efficiently, and they got a thing for slip-on shoes. God love them.
That's racist.
I'm like my mother. I stereotype. It's faster.
You gotta fill me in on the miles thing. What is that about?
I plan on grabbing as many miles as I can.
What's your total? Is it this big? This big?
I don't want to brag.
This is pretty sexy. We're two people who get turned on by elite status.
Good call on that towel rack.
Shame we didn't make it to the closet.
We got to do this again.
What kind of relationship do you have?
You know that moment when you look into somebody's eyes and you can feel them staring into your soul and the whole world goes quiet?
Yes.
Right, well, I don't.
You're awfully isolated the way you live.
Isolated, I'm surrounded.
Aren't you supposed to be consoling me?
I'm a wake-up call. This is a rebirth.
You have set up a way of life that basically makes it impossible for you to have any kind of human connection.
You're grounded. Everybody's grounded.
They're pulling us off the road. We're going home.
You never called.
I wasn't sure what was appropriate.
Appropriate. I'm the woman that you don't have to worry about.
If you think about it, your favorite memories, the most important moments in your life. Were you alone? Life's better with company.
But I very much enjoyed it. Great cast, great supporting cast, good feel to it. Definitely worth watching.
No, I mean, is it a feel-good film, or is it something to watch kind of in a bit more serious note?
Well, I'd say it's somewhere in between.
Sure.
It's got something to say. It doesn't necessarily leave you kind of, up and joyful.
Yeah.
But I think you won't be kind of depressed either. It gives you something to think about.
And also, that's a Blockbuster exclusive, so again, you can't rent that anywhere else but Blockbuster or blockbuster.co.uk. Right, another thing I wanted to really touch on that's coming out in May is Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes I enjoyed.
Yeah.
My wife, Ruta, she's a bit of a Sherlock Holmes purist. She reads a lot of Conan Doyle stories. And so she wasn't quite so enamoured by it because it's not faithful at all.
No, of course not.
It's directed by Guy Ritchie, and I got to say, it's I enjoyed it more than any of his other films. I always thought that pretty much everything he made was kind of just another laddish, mockney crime film, or kind of essentially just a play on Lock, Stock, or a remake of Lock, Stock over and over again.
The witness stated that he saw Lord Blackwood rise from the grave.
I want you to find him and stop him. That'll take every ounce of my not inconsiderable experience.
This may be a hobby to you, Mr. Holmes, but I do it for a living.
It does make a considerable difference to me having someone with me on whom I can thoroughly rely. Oh, it's nice to see you, Watson. What have you done?
Of course, it's still a very laddish film. It's still very blokey, and there's a lot of fisticuffs in it, a lot more action than you would ever expect in a Sherlock Holmes film. But I think it works.
Yeah.
If you don't go to it thinking this is going to be kind of a traditional Sherlock Holmes film. There's also a lot of great games coming out this month as well, and so I'm going to ask James about those. So
Okay.
take it away. What would you say is the game that you are most excited about?
I would probably say Red Dead Redemption, which is a sequel to, I think, 2004 game Red Dead Revolver. And it's made by Rockstar, who also are responsible for the Grand Theft Auto series, which I'm a massive fan of. Basically, this game is a lot like a Western Grand Theft Auto in the way that you have the great story mode and a story campaign that you can run through and complete, but you also have a fantastic open world environment which you can explore and do other side missions and other objectives and things like that. It's a really great game.
My former brother in arms. Great harm will befall my family.
I thought you were supposed to protect us, Marshal.
Not up, men.
I know a cure for all ailments, Mr. Marston.
People don't forget. Nothing is forgiven.
You here to fight the war?
Thank God you have come. They want to kill us all.
I don't like women, partner.
Hello, old friend. It's been a long time.
Also out this month you have Lost Planet 2, which again is a sequel to Lost Planet 1. After the events of the first game, which became a little bit repetitive, people have been really looking forward to the sequel. I mean, I know I have. And it takes place 10 years after the events of the first game, and it revolves around the story of a civil war happening on EDN3. Now, all the snow and ice have kind of melted away, and you're left with this really tropical kind of jungle landscape.
War. Together.
Also got the characters from Gears of War turning up in there as well.
Okay.
I think a little hint towards Gears of War 3, which I think was just scheduled for April next year.
Okay.
Which will definitely be one to look out for if you're fans of the first games.
So, next up,
you've got a game called Blur, which graphically is fantastic. It's very much a cross between two games, really. I mean, Burnout Paradise and Wipeout HD for me. I mean, you have fantastic racing elements and tracks like you get in Burnout Paradise, but then on the other hand, you have some really great power-ups and weapons like you would get in Wipeout HD, and the ability to kind of take out other racers as they're going around the track.
well, I'm sold. I think I'm going to play a couple of those games myself.
Brilliant.
And so, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm Marshall.
My name's James, and goodbye from the Blockbuster Online.